Great, great. All right, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. How you getting on? You all right?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. Really appreciate you joining us here today on the Alan and Aaron Sports Talk Radio Show. And for those who don't know, this is Lieutenant Dan Hennessey. Yep, ring announcer. So we'll start right there. How did you get started in becoming a ring announcer?
Well, I was in the Marine Corps, Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, and after the Marine Corps and that, I went to California, became a DJ, and guy poked his head into my booth and said, "Hey, would you like to be a DJ down in New Zealand?" I was like, "New York, New Jersey?" He went, "No, New Zealand." I'm like, "With a Z? Isn't that by Iceland?" He went, "No, down by Australia. You got to go for 3 months." So I went down there. And it's a beautiful place. It's fantastic. New Zealand is. And I just went from a DJ and bridged the gap to calling basketball with the Tall Blacks, their national team in the New Zealand National Basketball League. And the gentleman named Dixon MacGyver, who ran Kings of Oceania kickboxing, said, "Hey, have you ever ring announced before?" I said, "Sure. I used to ring announce in Los Angeles." I didn't tell him it was for jelly wrestling, but So he said, "Well, you got a cool voice, and I'd like you to come down and try it out and whatnot." And I went deep on YouTube. I mean, I went down some serious rabbit holes to learn the craft. And I started doing that in 2002 as a little part-time job because I'm a fight fan. I was single at the time, so I got to hassle the ring girls, and I get the best seat in the house. So it just kind of snowballed from there, really. Duco Events came along. They were Joseph Parker, who was the former WBO heavyweight champion of the world recently when he beat Andy Ruiz. I did his first professional fight. I think I've done 20 out of his 29 fights, and he made it all the way to the top. And from there, it just ballooned. And next thing you know, I'm over working with Michael Buffer at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. 52,000 people, I think we had when Jeff Horn beat Manny Pacquiao about 4 years ago. Yeah, and haven't looked back. It's just been a fantastic journey, really.
Wow, definitely sounds like a lot of fun that you've had. And what are some of the misconceptions that people have as far as a ring announcer doing the job?
Well, a lot of misconceptions that I found wasn't the people. It was the people who thought they could be a ring announcer. All these sportscasters, okay, just because they can read a teleprompter in an air-conditioned office doesn't make them a ring announcer, right? So when they're looking for somebody, they use a sports guy. Well, they were before I got down to New Zealand. And, you got to know what to say, where to stand. I mean, there's a lot of idiosyncrasies to the job, really. But the easier you make it look and the more effortless and flawless you make it look, you could have 10,000 hours behind a microphone to become proficient at it. And, I had my days back in the day at the YMCAs and the halls and everything, and worked my way up to Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane, Australia for the biggest fight night Australia ever had.
Wow. So definitely, it sounds like a journey. And it's interesting you mentioned that because one of my friends, he's dying to be a ring announcer. He does little practices, but I was thinking the same thing you were just saying. It's not as easy as it looks.
It's not. For example, there's a lot of spokes in the wheel. There's a lot of things you have to get going and you have to learn on the run. I was doing a Joseph Parker fight in Samoa, and Samoans are pretty particular about their names. You got to get them right. So we're at the Aggie Gray Resort, and it's the day before. It's the day of the fight. And they said, "Hey, Lieutenant Dan, you got to introduce the head of state for Samoa. He's going to come in and bless the ring." I said, "Okay, what's his name?" He said, "Tuila Epa Lupe Soliai Sailele Malie Lengoi." I went, "Oh my God, what? What did you just say?" So that whole afternoon, I was, just rehearsing Tuila Epa Lupe Soliai Sailele Malie Lengoi. That's this guy's name. Trying to get it down. Get to the fight night. The same guy comes up to me and he goes, "Hey, the old timer he can't make it in the ring tonight. He sprained his ankle." And you're not. I said, "Well, who's going to be blessing the ring?" He goes, "I am." I go, "What's your name?" He goes, "Joe Siao." So, you're going to learn some names and some things. And I mean, around the world, like people don't realize here in the States, but there's a whole different phonetics down on that side of the planet. They have like silent W's and silent N's. And if you don't get somebody's name right, their mom will corner you in the bathroom or somewhere hallway in that stadium and make sure you get it right next time. It's
Okay. Yeah.
there's so many things to it. There's a lot of idiosyncrasies to a fight night, and live television is to the second. There is no, you've got 10 seconds for this, you've got 20 seconds for this. It's like you've got 9 seconds for this, and you've got 18 seconds for this, and then we're going to cut to this. I failed many times in life in many things, but for some reason, God gave me the ability to pull off live television. So I'll run with that ball.
Wow, that's a gift that not too many people have. That's outstanding. And I know that we caught up you here in Tampa. You also do Australia. Which one do you prefer, being here in Australia or in Australia or Tampa?
Well, I mean, as far as when I was in Tampa, I went to Tom Brady's last game, so that's kind of not fair, man. That was unbelievable, right? But Australia, you know how everybody thinks of Matchroom, right? They think of Matchroom, Eddie Hearn from Matchroom, and there's going to be a new kid on the block. They're called No Limit Boxing, and it's the Rose brothers, George Rose, Matt Rose, Trent Rose, Ned Simpson. These guys put on shows that are rival to none. And while I'm throwing in top promoters in Australia, I got to do D&L events with Dean and Liam Lonigan. They're Jai Opataia's managers, and Jai Opataia is going to be going for the IBO Cruiserweight Championship against Martis Briedis in a couple of months. Now, the Rose boys, No Limit Boxing, they have Tim Zhu. I don't know if you remember Kostya Zhu back in the day. He was a Russian who defected to Australia and became, a world dominator. Well, this is his son, Tim, and he is just, for his age, he's just very cerebral. He doesn't get too wound up. But he is an unbelievable fighter. And I believe he's going to be fighting in Minnesota, his first USA debut, late in March.
Yep, that's correct.
So keep an eye out for that.
Yep, that's correct. And
we all know about George Kambosos, what he just did to Lopez, right? He's got all the belts. And if Lomachenko comes back from what he's involved in right now, Lomachenko should be fighting Kambosos for his first world title defense in Australia.
Yeah, so you hoping to get one of those fights, perhaps?
Oh, I'll get them all, my friend.
Okay, awesome. So you go. So the answer would be Australia. You seem like you have a feeling for Australian boxing.
Well, yeah, I mean, Australia, New Zealand. I mean, I've lived in New Zealand for 25 years, and I've been working in Australia now for a good 5 or 6. And you got Mark Hunt, and if you go to the UFC, you've got, nobody realizes that City Kickboxing in Auckland, where Israel Adesanya, Dan Hooker, Shane Young, Kai Kara France, all these guys came from one gym, and the gym was like no bigger than a 2-bedroom house.
Yeah,
it was a tiny little facility. They got a bigger one now. Eugene Behrman's got a awesome thing now, but when they started, it wasn't that big. And I mean, they were dealing against American top team Ronan Carnero. He's got a place in Atlanta that's like 4 stories high.
Yeah,
these guys are just. I can't explain it. They've got the All Blacks down here. It's their national rugby team, right? And the New Zealand All Blacks, there's only 5 million people to choose from, right? In the whole country. That's the talent pool. But they beat England, they beat South Africa, they beat Australia. I don't know how they pull it off.
Yeah.
But they beat everybody in the world by, usually by 20, 30 points, which is amazing. But you think about it, it's like, well, New Zealand, they must have more people to choose from. Now they get far less people to choose from. It's a real warrior spirit down in that side of the planet.
Yeah, that's right. And, nothing but warriors down there. And, one of the things that you do uniquely is you kind of like throw your cards right at the time of the fight. Explain how that idea and how that came about.
Well, I was ring announcing the shows in New Zealand, and I was in the middle of a show, and it was the end of the show. And I had this little thing, ladies and gentlemen, for the people gathered here, when somebody somewhere makes some noise. And I used to throw up my hand. That's all I did. And for some reason, I had my cue cards, and they left my hand. They just went flying. I only had about 4 of them, 5 of them. And I heard like a little, I don't know, like some noise. And I was like, oh, that was funny. Went about the show. And it was a great show. And one of my friends came up to me after the show and they said, "Hey, Dan, when you threw the cards, that was pretty cool." And I went, "What? Really?" He was like, "Oh yeah, the girls next to me loved it." I was like, "Well then," right? So, as the years went on, and like when the cards first flew out of my hand, I needed those cards to introduce the fighters. So I'm scrambling around the ring and I'm picking them up, and I'm looking at. I finally get them in order by the time both fighters come into the ring. But as the years went by, I used more cards and more cards. Now I throw about 20. And I don't pick them up anymore. I tell all the ring girls, I've got a bad back. I'm pretty old. Do you mind picking up the cards for me? Oh, we don't mind at all. So now the girls pick up the cards for me. So it really doesn't matter how many I throw.
Okay. And I guess an insider tip, what are some of the things that are on the cards? Because I've always been curious. Like, is it just their weight, their how to pronounce your name? What is an insider tip of what's on the cards?
Well, here's something weird. Like I've always written out my cards in my own handwriting. I always take the time to do it. I get on BoxRec. I've spent hours on BoxRec, days on BoxRec. Because when you talk to a fighter, he'd be like, "What's your record?" He'll say, "Oh, I'm 19-0." You get on BoxRec, and he's 11-8. You know what I'm saying? So BoxRec doesn't lie. The fighters lie. So you get on BoxRec and you do things. It's you're gonna get their name proper, but you can, first of all, for the people in the stadium, you go over the trunks first. Then you go their weight, then where they hail from, then any accolades they may have. The former Oceania welterweight champion, and then their record, and then their ring name. Right. That's why when I call somebody to the ring, it would be Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn comes into the ring, but then when I re-announce him with all those specifics, I say Jeff the Hornet Horn, his fight name as well. So that's where that comes in. But had the opportunity to do David Tua's last 4 or 5 fights, which was epic. I mean, he's the only heavyweight boxer that knocked out 4 heavyweight champions and never became champion himself. Yeah. I mean, and he's the nicest man on the planet. David Tua is a fantastic human being, and it's just different down there, I guess. I mean, I went down, like I said, to New Zealand for 3 months, and here we are 25 years later. And the last fight I did was the Tim Tszyu fight against Inoue from Japan. Unfortunately, it was December 12th, but it turned out to be a super spreader event. So 187 people that I know, including myself, caught COVID.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was flying back to Florida on Christmas Eve, but don't forget it's a day ahead down there, right?
Yeah.
So it was Christmas Eve here, and I went and got my COVID test, and then they send you a text message 40 minutes later, and mine said positive. Well, I was thrown into a isolation hotel, right, for 10 days. Yeah. And wasn't allowed to leave the room. It was pretty full on down there. And then I come to Florida, and it's like you can go anywhere you want. There's no masks. There's no checking in with a QR code on your phone. No temperature checks. No, here's my vaccination papers. Florida's like going back into a time machine, back to 2018. I love it.
Yeah.
So I kind of came back here to let the madness of COVID subside. And from what I gather, Australia's back online. They're going to start having stadium shows again. They have the athletes to have those stadium shows. And I think No Limit Boxing and DNL events are going to bring to the forefront some world champions through boxing. And they'll be synonymous with, Matchroom and Eddie Hearn from England.
Awesome. So a lot of big events coming up. And with yourself, I know you've been in the game a long time, with 20 plus years. Is it still fun for you at this point?
100%. I love it.
Okay.
I think it's a weird job. It's not a lot of people can pull it off for that long, because in combat sports, whether it's mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, kickboxing, or boxing, if you're not a man of your word, and if you don't perform time in and time again, boxing will spit you out in about a year and a half. It'll just get rid of you. And I'm sure a lot of businesses are like that. But again, fortunately, I've been given the opportunity to be able to pull off, live television, and haven't messed up too bad. So they keep having me back.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, hey, not too many people can do that and keep continued success. And let's talk a little bit about your background in the military. How did it get started, and what were some of your experiences there?
Well, my dad was in the United States Marine Corps, and when I was growing up, all I ever heard was, you think you're tough, join the Marines, and one day I did. And yeah, it was total peacetime at the time, and next thing you know, I was off to the Persian Gulf. Spent about 9 months in the combat theater of operation over there. I was there during Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm, 91 to 93. And I love Facebook because I keep in contact with a lot of my brothers I went over there with, and I get to see them, with their families now and how well they're doing. And it's just, it's fantastic. A lot of people are giving digs to Facebook I don't get political on Facebook. I don't like it. It's for me, it's watching weird cat videos and contacting with my friends I haven't seen for a while. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. I stay away from the politics too, but I enjoy Facebook for that reason. Keep up with the families and friends, and and I know you have some events you're looking to do for the people who haven't heard you on the States. If you wouldn't mind, if you can introduce a main event right now.
Well, what I will do for you, I can do. I'll give you Joseph Parker's introduction with his High Samoan chief name, which he got. Okay. And his opponent, fighting out of the blue corner, enters the ring wearing gray trunks with green trim. He weighed in at 115 kilograms or 242 pounds. He hails from South Auckland, New Zealand, representing the beautiful country of Samoa. He is trained by world-renowned boxing coach and trainer Kevin Barry. He has 29 professional fights with 27 wins, 2 losses, 25 big wins coming by way of knockout. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the reigning, defending WBO heavyweight champion of the world, Lupe Soliai La'auli Ole Maliatoa, Joseph Parker.
Wow, man, that's awesome. That's fantastic.
Well, I need your mailing address now because you owe me $5,000.
That's fantastic. That's so cool. Man.
Yeah, it's like again, like with the ring announcing, it's like the fatter, older, I become, and the balder I become, the more renowned I become. People look at your full body of work and what you've done, rather than every other job on the planet where they want to replace you with somebody younger and cheaper. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I know. Hey, my friend, after hearing that, has a lot of work to do. Not that he's bad, but he's not at that level for sure. But
right.
yeah.
Well, again, once he gets 10,000 hours in behind that microphone, he'll be proficient at it, right?
Okay, so he's got to work at that. That's for sure. So
he's got to spend a few years at some YMCA's getting that down, right?
Got to start at the smaller venues. That's right. And one of my good friends who started this interview, who got it set up, was Glenn Earnshaw.
Glenn's great.
Yeah. Speak about Glenn a bit and meeting him and working with him.
Well, he's just, he's an Aussie diehard boxing fan. And, usually down on that side of the planet, they're all about rugby or rugby league. But he is a diehard boxing fan. And he got a hold of me through Facebook. And he said, hey, would you mind talking to my friend about Australian boxing and ring announcing? And I said, how do I get a hold of him? Right? Let's do this. And here we are, That's awesome. So tell me a little bit about what you got going on. How long have you been doing this show for? I think it's great.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. I've been doing it now right almost at our 2-year anniversary. Ironically, it's coming up soon in another week, but about
fantastic.
2 years. And it's been a real blessing. We had some big celebrities on here, Dow Strawberries, and we've had also some people that people wouldn't know. We had Chloe Chaos, people from Australia. Right. And it's been a real blessing. We had even, Jeff Horn on here. So,
sure.
The
Hornet.
That's right. And it's been a lot of fun. It's one of those things kind of like you, I didn't know what to expect when we started, and then it's just fun. And then it just kind of.
And it ballooned on up.
To where we got. We just got our first sponsor. I got to thank Chef G's Barbecue Sauce. He just became our first sponsor. So.
Oh, fantastic. You have to send me some of that.
Yeah, that's right. Right here in Tampa too. So that's awesome. How long are you going to be here in Tampa, by the way?
Well, I was in Tampa for Tom Brady's last game. But I'm staying up here in St. Augustine.
Okay. Okay.
So I'm on St. Augustine Beach. So I'm going to be here. I leave on the 22nd to go to San Francisco, and then I fly out on the 25th to go back to Sydney. But don't forget, I arrive on the 27th because they're a day ahead down there.
Right. Exactly. And
Yeah.
definitely.
And I got a show on March 30th with No Limit Boxing, which is going to be awesome. Check out ESPN Plus for that, I believe, here in the States. And then I've got a kickboxing fight night on April 2nd. And then I believe coming up very shortly with DNL Events, Jayo Pataya will be challenging for the World IBO Cruiserweight title. So the athletes and the promoters down there are all on the same page, and it's these guys are going to take over. The takeover is real.
That's absolutely right. And then speaking of that, how can fans and promoters get a hold of you, and best way to do that?
Well, I'm old school, like I'm not on Instagram and TikTok, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook alone, right? I don't have time for all this other stuff, right? I got things to do. So it's just Facebook basically, and all my shows and snippets of what I do are on Facebook, and they're on YouTube. And, I've been doing it for 20 years. So it's anybody that's thrown a show on in that part of the world, will know who I am because I just been there long enough,
Oh, yeah, absolutely right. And for those who don't know, if you already know that, this is Lieutenant Dan Hennessey. We're such an honor and a pleasure to have you here on the Island Era Sports Radio Show. Be safe out there in your travels, and best of luck and wishes. And we're going to follow you for the rest of your career now.
Oh, man. Well, let's do this again when I'm sitting in Australia, shall we?
Absolutely. We'd love to.
I can show you guys how the toilets flush the other way.
We would love to see that too. That's my next destination. I need to go to Australia and visit.
Oh, 100%. 100%. It is just gobsmackingly beautiful down there. And it's I live in Surfers Paradise there, and it sounds like what it is, Surfers Paradise. It's awesome. And the weather there is just fantastic. It reminds me a little bit like Florida. It never really gets to have bad weathers. Even summertime, wintertime, it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit. It's doable for a kid that was brought up in, Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where it snows by the foot, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, so I know that snow and that cold weather. I don't miss that at all.
Yep, I don't miss that at all. I remember when the Patriots were playing the Oakland Raiders, and I was like 7 years old, and they were playing in Oakland, and we were on the Cape, and we had snow up to the window, and the coal stove was going, and I'm looking at the people in the stands, and they're all wearing like tank tops and flip flops, and I'm like, Dad, where's that? Yeah. He goes, that's Oakland, California. And that stuck in my head. So my last 7 years in the States were in California, in LA. And then I went down to New Zealand, and I never looked back.
There you go. That's a real blessing there. It was meant for you to be there doing what you're doing. That's fantastic. Well,
I appreciate it.
You're very welcome, and appreciate you too, Lieutenant Dan. And take care of yourself.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye now.